Hello, everybody, and welcome to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I finally got my hands on the new sim, and I've had it for a few days now, and I've just been having an absolute blast with it. I've mostly just been, spending my time getting all of my settings dialed in and all of my controls set up. But I am at a place where I feel happy with that, at least for now. I'm sure there will be more to come with all of that, but I think I've got most of that sorted out, so I feel pretty good about it. And I've also started my career here in the simulator as well, which has just been a ton of fun. And that's what we're going to be doing today. Before we jump into the mission, though, I think I will quickly just show you the certification stuff. So the first thing I did as soon as I could is did my private pilot certificate. And then I did the 2 flight seeing missions that you need to do before your commercial. And then I got that knocked out, and then I also did my high performance endorsement so far. Now, I didn't really feel the need to share the certification process because honestly, it's just not realistic. I am a commercial pilot and a flight instructor in the real world. I've been through a lot of training. I didn't feel the need to sit through these lessons and do all of the training in the sim, although I do think it is a really, really great thing for people who maybe don't have a lot of flight simulator experience or things like that and want to learn. I think it's a great thing, but honestly, the certification process is not realistic. The order of it is not very realistic. And there's things in here that just are not real, like a turboprop engine rating. That's not something that exists in the real world. So things like that. But I do get what they're trying to do, and I think it's a good idea, especially for people who are new to flight simulation. But for me, I'm just trying to get these ratings knocked out so that I can get onto the missions, because I think the missions are really, really cool, and I think they provide more of an incentive to fly in the simulator more than just free flight and stuff like that. So what I thought we would do today is a skydiving mission, just because that's something that we haven't done before, and I think it would be something fun and unique. So let's find a good one and we'll do it. Here's one in Ellsworth, Kansas that looks pretty good. The payout is 1,290 credits, and it's in the 172 Skyhawk, and it's advertised as only being 30 minutes long. So I think that sounds like a good one. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And here's the brief. Jessica has booked a skydiving jump for a loved one's birthday, and they'll be jumping together today. She chose us for our stellar reputation locally, so let's justify her choice by taking their experience to new heights over Ellsworth. Sounds good. So this is basically the kind of the profile that we'll be doing. We'll be taking off, flying out, climbing up to altitude, and lining up on the jump axis approach. And then we will basically line it up and slow the airplane down at altitude and everything so they can jump out. And then we'll spiral to the ground, race them to the ground. And that will be it. So we can go ahead and accept this mission. And here we are in the hangar. So the mission criteria is kind of what we're going to be graded on is our execution time, the drop jumper's position, stability during the drop, and then of course landing smoothness at the end, because that is the most important part of any flight. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure everything is good on the EFB. All right, we've got 22 gallons of fuel on board, so that will be enough for our short flight today. Everything else looks good in the EFB, so that's good. Let's go ahead and hit fly, and we will be underway. All right, here we are on the ground in Ellsworth, Kansas, and we're parked in the grass. That's fine. We'll come over here. Let's remove some of these covers. And then we will climb up into the airplane and start on the pre-flight inspection. So first thing I always do when I get in the airplane is just to make sure that I have all of my required documents on board. Of course, we're in a flight simulator though, so I'm not really worried about that. But we'll go ahead and hit tab here. We'll pull up the checklists and we'll do the pre-flight inspection starting in the cabin. So pitot tube cover is removed. Parking brake is set. Ignition switch is off. Avionics master switches are off. And we can go ahead and turn on the master switch there. Primary flight display, verified PFD's on. You can see it's on there. Fuel quantity check. You can see we've got enough fuel for this flight, so that's good. Oil pressure enunciator. We've got it right there, as well as the low vacuum and low volts enunciators. That's good. And before we turn the master switch off, we're going to go ahead and turn on all the lights and the pitot heat, and we will jump out of the airplane and make sure that all of that stuff is on. So it looks like we got a beacon light. Nav light on the tail is super dim, but it is working. That's good. And then we've got strobe light here on this wingtip right there, and a green nav light there. That is good. And then we've got landing and a taxi light there. Then our nav light and strobe light on this wingtip. And of course, we'll come over here and we put our hand up on the pitot tube to make sure that pitot heat is working properly, and we'll say that it is. So all of that is good. Back into the airplane now. We'll go ahead and turn all of these things off, and the master switch, oops, off. Perfect. And elevator trim, takeoff position. That is set. Fuel selector will go to both. And static pressure alternate source is off. That's good. All right, so next will be the before starting engine checklist. Before we get to that, let's go ahead and what did that release? Weird. All right, before we get to that, we'll jump out of the airplane and do the rest of the pre-flight. So starting here, when you get out of the airplane, you'll check the baggage door and make sure that's secure. I can never get this pin to give me a green check mark, but just checking to make sure that the baggage door is closed and latched. So that's good. Then I check all the exterior antennas. So we got the comm antennas, the GPS antenna up there, ELT antenna, and then we've got the VOR localizer antennas there, and then down here we got the marker beacon antenna and the transponder antenna. That all looks good. Coming to the back here, elevator, we're going to check for free movement, and then we would check all of its hinges here, and then we'd check its stops and cables there, and then same thing on the rudder. We'll check the stops and cables in there, and then its hinges all the way up. And then on the elevator here, we want to check that trim tab and its connection, make sure we got a cotter pin in there and in there, and then those hinges look good as well. And then coming around this side of the empennage onto the fuselage, no damage or anything like that. And then down here, gear leg looks good. Main gear looks good. And then the flap, main thing on the flap you want to check is the rollers and the push rod. That's all good. And I also check security on that. And then aileron, free movement, hinges, pins, push rod, wingtip. Check the lights, make sure there's no damage. And no damage on the leading edge of the wings or anything. We'll check our oil quantity. Full mark is there, low mark is down there. You can see we are close to that full mark, so that's good. We'll go ahead and put that away. That is perfect. Engine intakes. Check these openings to make sure they're clear, no bird's nest or anything in there. And the alternator belt security. Want to check that. Propeller, you check that for damage, and the spinner. Then down here we check all the components and the nose gear as well. Make sure we get that check mark and down there as well. Awesome. That all looks good. And then coming around this side, it starts to just be a repeat, right? So everything on the wing strut looks good. Leading edge of the wing, we'll check our pitot tube, make sure there's nothing blocking that. That looks good. Our wingtip, or sorry, our fuel vent right there looks good. Stall warning vane right there. There's nothing blocking any of that stuff. And same thing with that static port there that we checked when we passed it. Nothing blocking any of that. Looks good. No damage to the lights or anything. Leading edge of the wings look good. Lights, no damage. And now it's, you know, same stuff on this side with the aileron and the flap. Checking all of that. And then down here to check our gear. Oops. Check our gear like so. And that looks good. And we'll remove the chocks. And then lastly, what you would do is check the fuel quantity visually with a dipstick, and then double check that the fuel caps are secured. That's the last thing you check before you get in the airplane, especially in a high wing, of course. And then, of course, sump all the fuel sump points to make sure there's no contaminated fuel, but we don't have that modeled either. But otherwise, the pre-flight inspection is complete. The airplane looks good, so we will go ahead and climb into the cockpit, and that is done. So before we request boarding, we're going to go ahead and knock out the before starting engine checklist. That way we board right before we're ready to go. So first of all, brakes test and set. So I'm actually going to release the parking brake here real quick. Just check for brake pressure. Feels good. Parking brake set. Perfect. That is good. Electrical equipment is all off. Avionics master switches are off. Fuel selector valve is on both. And fuel shutoff valve is in. That is open. Perfect. So next we'll be starting engine with the battery. But before we do that, let's go ahead and request our boarding.
Savage 5 N83189 clear to board, guys.
We are a Skyhawk, not a Savage.
515 N83189. Everyone listen up. It's time to board the aircraft. Follow the exit order that we discussed at the clubhouse. Understood? Good.
All right, welcome aboard, guys. Ready to do some diving today? All right, sounds good. Let's go ahead and do our starting engine with the battery checklist. So first of all, throttle open about 1/4 inch. Give it a little bit more than that. This airplane, that looks good. Mixtures, idle cutoff, standby battery, arm. Normally we would test it and then arm it, but the test light is not currently working in this model, so we'll just put it to the arm position. So that's good. Engine indication systems, we'll check to make sure that's in parameters. Then it's parameters, no red X's or anything. That looks good. We do have a cold engine, so we are going to prime. So that was good. We'll do the master switch on. And beacon light on. The engine is cold, so we're going to run through the priming procedure here. I'm just going to check all these because it's just a flow for me. That's good. We'll get the nav lights on now too as well. All right, so we'll go ahead and prime it up and then start the engine. So fuel pump on, mixture will go full rich, and then normally you look for a fuel flow indication here. That is also not modeled yet, so we just leave it in for a few seconds, normally 5 seconds. Back on the mixture, fuel pump off, and we're ready to start. So clear prop.
Pilot, let's give a round of applause to our 2 candidates for this jump.
All right, oil pressure is up into the green,
please.
And we are
Let's
charging.
go.
We have 28 volts.
Captain,
that all looks good.
We're counting on you to make this a fantastic jump.
Perfect. That
We're all
looks
set,
good
so
to
now
me.
it's your turn to steal the show.
That's a good start. We'll go ahead and turn on the avionics master. Avionics are coming on. That's good. We'll hit enter to continue. And that is good. Avionics are on. Perfect. So next will be the before takeoff checklist. Normally I have a pre-taxi or taxi checklist. So we'll kind of just do the items that I can remember off the top of my head. So we'll lean the mixture. Go ahead and put that on altitude right now. That will be fine. So mixture is leaned and we'll get the weather and then we'll be ready to taxi. All right, the AWAS does not seem to be working for this airport in the sim, but that's okay. We're just gonna set our altimeters to field elevation, which is 1633. So we'll put that up to right about there. That one will be synced per the settings. So that's fine. So we're gonna go ahead and turn the taxi light on and we'll get the brakes release and announce our taxi here as well.
9 Kilo 7 traffic Cessna November.
So we're just gonna taxi right up here
to
hold short. Get up onto the solid surface here.
Is everyone hyped? That's what I like to hear.
And we're gonna hold short here and do our
Even if it's not your first time,
takeoff
please
checklist.
focus and stick to my instructions. All right. I see that everyone is in place. Seatbelt, eye shield, and everything ready?
All right,
Great.
that's good.
Time to ride the wind, guys.
We'll hold short here and do our before takeoff checklist. So before takeoff, parking brake set. We got the parking brake set for now. Flight controls free and correct. Looking left aileron's up, right one's down, right one's up, left one is down. And then looking behind us, got the elevator up, elevator down, rudder. Perfect. And then we check for full freedom of movement in the flight controls as well. Controls are free and correct. Flight instruments, check and set. No red X's here on the PFD. That is good. Altimeters are set. We set those to field elevation. That looks pretty good, 1633. So that's good. Standby altimeter is set as well. That looks good. Standby flight instruments, they all look good and operational. No flags or anything, so that's good. Fuel quantity check. Quantity looks good for this flight. Mixture, we'll go full rich. Fuel selector is on both, confirmed. And elevator trim is set for takeoff. So throttle, we'll take it up to 1800 RPM here for the run up. There's 1800 RPM. And we will check the magnetos going to the right. Good drop, smooth, back to both. Covered, left. And a good drop, and it's smooth, back to both. We are on both, good recovery. Looks good, engine indication system, good fuel flow, oil pressure is green and stable. Oil temp looks good. Vacuum is in the center of the green. Volts and amps look good. And everything is showing nice and even across the board. So that's all good. And annunciator panel is clear. Throttle, we'll check idle. And then back to 1,000. And it's idling okay. We'll take it back up. We idle between 800 and 1,000 RPM in the real world, so that's what I'll do on here. Com frequencies were set. Nav frequencies, not worried about that. Transponder, squawking VFR, we're on altitude. That's good. Flaps, set 10 degrees. And we'll get the lights and the brakes before we go. So that's the before takeoff checklist complete. Before we go though, I'm gonna do a quick departure and emergency briefing. So the departure briefing will basically be, we're gonna follow the flight plan, kind of the path that they have designated for us. And I've got the that to toggle on and off. You can see that arrow, so we can reference that if we need to. So we're just gonna follow that. As far as the emergency briefing goes, if we have any kind of loss of power while we are still on the ground, we will abort the takeoff. If we lose power when we're in the air, but we have remaining runway ahead of us, then we will land on that remaining runway ahead of us. Beyond any remaining runway, depending on whether it's a total engine failure or just a partial power failure. If it's partial power failure and we have enough to come back and land, like go around the pattern and come back and land, then that's what we'll do. Otherwise, for a total engine failure, anything below 400 feet, we're gonna land straight ahead, or 30 degrees either side of the nose. Above 400 feet up to 800 feet, we could consider going 90 degrees either side of us, but not until we're above 800 feet would I consider turning back to the airport. The most important thing will be, if the engine fails, the most important thing will be to get the nose down, pitch for best glide speed, which is 68, and pick the best emergency landing option that is available to us. So that's my departure and emergency briefing complete, and the before takeoff checklist is complete. So I'm ready to go. Do you guys have any questions? All right, they are ready to go. So let's do it. Go ahead and announce our takeoff. Release the brakes. Get the lights on.
7 traffic Cessna November,
Here we go. Transponders on altitude. Squawking VFR. Mixtures rich. Flaps are set. Fuel selectors on both. Trim set. Lights on. Pitot heat's not needed. Takeoff time 0056 Zulu in the real world. All right, look at this for reference here. Oh, it wants us to go. All right, entered 3-5. Looks like we'll be departing 3-5 from here. That looks good. I'm gonna center our heading bug on that. Lined up. HSI looks good. Here we go. Full power's coming in. Full power supplied. Full power's made. Fuel flow looks good. Full pressure's green and stable. Airspeed's alive. Down the center line. It's 55. Rotate.
An 83189 Savage 5.
Tap the brakes.
Did you
Got
check
a
out today's data on your map?
positive
Just
rate.
in case you missed it. Your drop axis today is into the wind, heading 329 degrees true. Current on-site speed is 10 knots. I've got everything on my radar for you from here. Keep it steady and see you.
All right, everything's looking good so far. We got a safe altitude. The airspeed, the flaps are up. That's good. And it's gonna have us make a climbing right turn, jump run approach, and they should let us know how high they want us to be for them when they deploy. So we'll make our turn towards that direction. Use my track IR here so I can look around a little bit.
Hey guys, few reminders for you. First, I'm Shelly, your jump master, but friends call me TD. We're high enough, guys. Unfasten your seatbelt. You want to be able to jump off the plane if something happens. When the aircraft hits 11,600 feet, that's the beat moment.
All right, 11.6.
Free fall lasts 60 seconds max, then hit the sill, okay?
That's how high they want us. All right, 11.6 is set. I'm gonna go ahead and set up our autopilot here for reference. Up back to 85, and we'll get our heading bug over here too. Use the autopilot when we climb out in heading mode a little bit if we want.
Your first time in Ellsworth, guys?
That will be good. Go ahead and take a
Good
look at
idea.
our
Book this
en
jump
route
with us.
climb checklist here.
From here, Ellsworth is a real treat for the eyes.
Airspeed 78 to 85, we got it. Throttle's gonna stay full, and make sure we can go ahead and start leaning that. And then the cruise checklist will be, the en route climb checklist will be complete. All right, that'll be a good lean for now. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn the autopilot on. And we will control it in heading mode. Following this path on up to 11,600 feet.
If anyone wants to say something, it's now or never, sis. So scary.
All right, we're looking like we are high enough to start making our turn back. So we're gonna go ahead and start making our way over to the jump axis approach. And another thing that I wanted to point out while we're climbing out here is when you're flying a Skyhawk, especially on like a hot day, these newer Skyhawks that don't climb very well, and you got to put out a lot of power and stuff like that. On a hot day, you got to be careful about your CHTs when you're climbing. You can see I've got the lean page up here, keeping an eye on my CHTs. That's something that we always had to be keeping an eye on. When I was flying at Textron Aviation this past summer, flying those Skyhawks on those hot days, we generally tried to keep the CHTs down below 400. If they started to get much above 400, we would start taking action to either lower the nose or, give it a little more mixture, whatever, to, get those temps down a little bit. So just something to be aware of when you're flying your Skyhawks, especially on a hot day. All right, we are leveling off here at 11,600 feet. This is the altitude they wanted to jump from. So that's good. We'll let it speed up a little bit, and we are about 7 miles from the jump axis approach. And unfortunately, I missed the 2 minutes till jumpers away call because I was talking to you guys and I didn't have the emission steps up. But that's okay. They always make you do it way too early anyways. We are about 3 miles from the jump axis approach here. I'm gonna go and kill the autopilot and the flight director. And we're gonna hand fly it from here. As these guys get ready to jump. All right, we'll stay on our altitude here, and we're gonna start slowing down here momentarily. Reducing power now to slow it down. We're gonna want 72 knots, I believe, for their jump approach, and 11,600 feet. And then they're also gonna want me straight into the wind. All right, coming up on that approach. All right, we gotta align ourselves into the wind, get our speed and altitude. Here's our speed. And I don't know if it will register our altitude. I've been having trouble with that for some reason. But we want to get ourselves aligned into the wind. There we are. So we'll hold this heading basically and this speed. And then our 11,600 feet, the best that we can. And the jumpers are just about to be away. So once we get past that entry, we'll send them. Give them the all clear. So there's our altitude. 11,600 feet is what they wanted, but see, I didn't get the green on that for some reason. So hopefully that doesn't take too much off our score at the end.
Sky's calling.
All right, here we go. There's one away.
See you on the ground.
2 jumpers
Captain.
away.
Thanks for the ride.
And all right, 3 jumpers away. Perfect. We'd want to announce our jumpers away. There we are, jumpers away.
Savage 5 and 83189.
Right over the airport. All right, and we are spiraling down. Get our lights on here. I'm gonna double check to see what runway they have us on. It looks like 17. So that's good. Our descent checklist while we're spiraling real quick. Power, we're at idle power right now. Mixture, we'll go ahead and enrich in that a little bit. Altimeters should still be set. Damn, altimeter should be set. Fuel selector is on both, and flaps as desired. No flaps yet. So the descent checklist is complete. And we'll keep an eye out for these jumpers. Sometimes you can actually see their parachutes deployed, which is always cool. So we'll see if we see any. Oh, one more loop ought to do it. There's a chute right there. There's one of them. Very cool. A little more bank in. We'll keep the spiral coming. Right over the airport. Pretty cool. All right, turning downwind. About 2,200 RPM here on the downwind. We're a beam. Power's coming back. Below 110, 10 degrees of flaps. Gas, undercarriage, mixture, power, seatbelts, switches, and its speed. Looking for 80 knots. Trim up that nose a little bit. And we'll turn base here. And we're in the wide arc. Flaps 20. Elected and indicating. 75 knots here on base. Final looks good and clear. No traffic on TCAS. Runway is all clear. Turning final. Pretty good. I overshoot just a little bit.
Niner Kilo 7 traffic Cessna November 8 tree 189er is on final runway tree 5 to land.
All right, looking good. Full flaps. Selected and indicating. Airspeed 70, not bad. We're gonna slow it down just a little bit. For about 65 will be good. We'll crosswind from the left, as you can see. We're gonna use a little bit of right rudder, left aileron. We're a little low and slow, so we're gonna keep that power in there. All right, that's looking pretty good. Power all the way to idle. Not quite enough flare.
Kudos for that wild rotation. Wow.
That'll work
You
though.
saved a bunch of fuel with that move.
All right, they'll want us to clear the runway. Then hold short. So flaps identified, flaps coming up. Transponder says an altitude squawk VFR, mixture lean for taxi. Lights as required, we're gonna leave them for now since we're still on the runway, and we'll reset that trim. So we'll get the lights, and then the after landing checklist will be complete. All right, clearing the runway here. Past the hold short bars. And we'll get the landing and the strobes off. And after landing checklist complete, we'll taxi to parking.
7 traffic Cessna November 8 tree 189er is taxiing to parking.
All right, that'll work.
Great day. We've made people happy
All right,
and
parking
made some
brake
quick
set.
cash. When you're done, I'll show you the details of your performance.
All right, we'll go ahead and turn the taxi light off. Avionics can come off. And we'll shut the engine down. All right, mission success. Let's see how we did. Execution time, of course. The altitude. Well, we almost got to the S tier. We got an A still, so that's good. I will take it. We're gonna get paid. That's the important thing. All right, we made a few bucks on that. Not bad for a short, quick mission. So, let's see. Got a little bit more reputation. That's good. And hopefully a level up. Yeah, level 19. Awesome. All right, that will do it for that mission. And that will also do it for this episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And I am really excited about this new simulator, excited to do more missions and share some more content of the career mode and all kinds of flying adventures. I'm sure it's going to be a blast. But thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you all someday soon. Take care.